Afternoon, folks. I'm sitting here with a rather lovely cup of tea, getting ready to do some more hobby nightmares. I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and that today we get to do some really nice hobby nightmares. If you like what I do, then please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, or you will never, ever, ever know that I am online. And also, if you like what I do, go to Patreon, because if you go on there, you get all of these videos a day early at least, and you get to talk to me in the comments there if you have anything interesting to say. Some people just say, "Hey, that was a good video," and I'm like, "Thank you." But apart from that, yeah, let's get on with the video, shall we? Oh, and also, Composite Games do a lot for the channel, so if you're going to get anything this holiday season, make sure you head over there. Make them more busy, because as far as I know, they're really, really, really busy. Let's make them more busy. Let's make them swept off their feet, shall we? If you use the promo code Northern Exile down below, you get an extra 5% off at checkout of all the models that you got in your basket, and you already get 20% off on most things at Composite Games. That's 25% off at checkout. Pretty awesome, really. Right. Let's go and do some hobby nightmares, shall we, before we do anything else. Not all of these nightmares, some of them are quite nice, which I thought was nice, because we're halfway through the week, and I thought, you know, get you through the week, but some of them are pretty cringy as well. Royston Crow says, "Greetings, your northernness." Thank you. This one isn't a nightmare, rather an awesome moment with a question for you at the end. My first RPG group as a kid. One day, we got the original Warhammer Fantasy roleplay, and of course, we ran the Enemy Within campaign with me as the games master. It was guys playing human wizards and warriors. Tons of fun. I ran it again a couple of years later with a group of friends, girls playing wizards and elves, guys playing humans and dwarves. The final part of the campaign had finally come out, Empire in Flames, so we got to actually finish the whole thing. Yeah, I remember the days when these things would come out in little supplements. So you'd complete one part of the story and you'd have to wait for the next part. I do remember that. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool way of doing it. A few years later, when I was sharing a flat with two girls, I ran it again. Two female elves. I then moved to the States after marrying my American girlfriend. We'd been bouncing back and forth between our countries for a while and needed to pick one. My folks had retired to the Mediterranean. She was very close to hers. California it is. Fair enough. Your folks are tied to the Mediterranean, and good for them. She knew basically nothing of fantasy roleplay. She was more of a cyberpunk girl. A big William Gibson fan. Wow, she got any friends? At high school, she had friends who did D&D, and although it made me smile that she always referred to D&D as the game where you paint those little men, it was clear she had no interest in it. We moved to Washington State for the weather, because, well, they have it, and I couldn't handle another Christmas parked in front of an air conditioner in San Francisco. Yeah, that's one of the things that people don't tell you. The thing is, though, when I was on the West Coast, I was in Tahoe, which is in the mountains, and so when they had their winter, it was winter. It was literally, like, there was one time when I was in Tahoe where I was driving up there with my girlfriend, and we got to her parents' house up in the mountains there, and she was saying, yeah, it's cold, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm British, I'm fine. I know cold. You're California, you don't know cold. She was like, uh-huh. It's like we got to her parents' house and we got out, and I was like, oh my god, it hit me like a wall. Literally a wall of cold. Literally, it just slapped me right in the face. Horrible stuff. But then, like, we went inside and, met her family. Yes, hello, yeah, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. And I went, oh, I've left my jacket outside in the car. I've been inside for a few minutes, left my jacket outside in the car. Bear in mind, this car had the heater on before we got out. So I said, I'll go outside and get my jacket. I walked outside, I opened the door, I get my jacket, and it's literally frozen into its shape. I pick it up like a cardboard box. I'm like, what has gone on here? And close the door, and I walk in, she's like, yeah, it's that cold here. I'm like, yeah, this is colder than England. This is like minus 30. It's ridiculous. So yeah, California does get really bad weather. But, He says, then Fellowship of the Ring came out. Alright, this is back in the day, okay. We went and saw it, and she was blown away, and asked about the role-playing games I had fun with, and wanted to give it a go. I always really admire people who see stuff, and are not ashamed to go, wow, I took the piss out of that back in the day, but now I really want to do it because that seems really cool, because I've seen something else. I always admire that. A lot of people get too embarrassed because they've already taken the piss out of it, and I think people will judge them. So, I rummaged in my storage boxes and retrieved my tattered copies of Enemy Within. Getting ready for another wizard or elf, to my bemusement, she opted to play a dwarf, and a female one at that. This is where we discovered a monster loophole in the adventure, Power Behind the Throne. It's a political episode in the campaign, with the characters trying to gain influence on the various persons of the court, because the Graf is too infirm to make decisions and relies pretty much on the majority of his advisors on any given topic. Okay, cool. 1 second. A dwarf and wizard and scroll tax of mysterious origin are weakening the city, so off you go. You either work the pro-dwarf factions, but lose those who don't care for them. Same with the spellcasters and clerics, right? So it's a campaign that's pitting people against each other in a city, and you've got to pick one of them. Much like Fallout or Skyrim or something. To illustrate, there are 2 elves, the Master of the Hunt and the Minstrel, who don't care for dwarves, but are way into the ladies and compete for conquests, and Metropolitan Midheim has them open to stepping out of their own race. The female dwarf expertly played them against one another to gain their support. Okay, cool. The Graf's champion likes dwarves. He respects strength and honour, but is happily betrothed with no time for females. There's a challenge event to take the title, and every time I've run this, a player wins and always takes it. This time, he is again beaten, but she broadcasts that it takes more than just a sword arm to be a champion. It takes honour and integrity, and right now, Middenheim has the greatest of champions, and that's the champion and a bunch of the military on her side. Cool, cool. So she's buttering people up. Okay, are you playing with just your missus here? Because that's a ballsy way of doing things. I've run one session with only one person, and it was my girlfriend at the time. We literally did a shopping trip where she felt that she wasn't getting enough time in our D&D campaign to do the stuff that she wanted to do. So I said, hey, on my old channel, I said, hey, why don't we do like a couple of hour session, just me and you? We'll treat it as time that we hang out and do stuff together. And I'll record it and put it online, and we did. And it was her character literally going shopping. She picked the most girly thing that she could have chosen to do. And she wasn't that much of a girly girl. She was, no, I want to go shopping. I was like, all right, fair enough. She had all this gold to spend, and she went and spent it. It was really funny when we came back to the party like a week later, and she had all this like really decked out gear. And she was like, "Yeah, I've got no money left." Carrying on, working the ladies at court with stories of how it may be tough being a woman in the Empire, but try being a female dwarf in the strongholds. Pass on a few tales to wow them. Sorted. Okay, that's the ladies of the court on her side now. So, either by working the burly no-nonsense dwarf in chainmail, or the emphatic demure female in distress, she pretty much locked up the adventure with ease on her own. Wow. Anyways, after having run this campaign numerous times, to have a complete newbie come in and just turn it upside down was awesome. It was like running it for the first time because I had to re-examine every single interaction. We did end up getting divorced a few years later, but remain close friends. Oh, that sucks, man. Sorry about that. She's floated the idea of replaying the campaign with our new circle of friends, but that last go was so perfect, and I'm dragging my heels because it's clearly such a precious and fond memory for the both of us. Any suggestions on any other games that have an excellent top-notch campaign or series of events we could try instead? Okay, the rest of it is just you saying thank you, so thank you very much, Royston. I don't know, man. I would have to have a really good think about it. I have a friend, John, who would be able to help you out a lot with that. He's currently... do you know what? I think Mouse Ritter would be a really good one. I think it's got a few campaign sets to it as well. I think it's free if you look online. Mouse Ritter is essentially an RPG where you play as mice, and you are in little kingdoms that are you can either put your kingdoms in the human world where you have like different parts of a garden or a house or whatever, or you can do it in actual like Animals of Farthing Wood style, animals in a kingdom. Up to you. I really enjoy that one, and I think it does have several supplements and adventure packs as well. So, gonna have a little go at that. Victor says, "Hello from Sweden, Mr. Exile. Hope you're doing good." I am. One funny thing is, Victor, I adore you, man, because some of your words, obviously English isn't your first language, and some of your words in this letter were so out there and not English that my auto-translate just was like, what? I don't know what this is. So I had to employ another Swedish friend to come in and help me out a little bit. Hello from Sweden, Mr. Exile. Hope you're doing good. Big fan of the channel. It sure has given me a lot of good mental health advice and funny stories during my evening painting sessions. No problem, man. I hope I hope I haven't ruined your painting by saying your name out loud there. I have a little story from when I introduced my wife to the game of 40k a few months ago. I have been into the hobby since 1993, so I'm kind of a veteran tabletop wargamer. My wife, on the other hand, is a hardcore knitter, and her closest experience with a tabletop game is a puzzle. Okay. Well, not everyone can be engrossed in it. I asked her if she would be interested in trying the hobby, as it could be a fun thing to do together after putting the kids to sleep. Surprisingly, she said yes. So I went to the local friendly game store and got us a starter set of Necrons and the Space Boys in blue. That's Indomitus, isn't it? And she immediately fell for the robots, and after watching some grimdark Necron lore and building models, she turned into a servant of the Silent King, claiming her loyalty to the dynasty of we played through the scenarios in the introduction manual, and things were going great, and we had a nice evening. All good so far. Okay, cool. The next evening was our grand first game together, and my Ultramarines were ready to battle the Necrons, and hopefully getting slaughtered so my new in-house Necron Overlord would walk away with a win in her first game. Watching your channel and hearing about introduction games, I tried to paint up a scenario where my Marines foolishly arrived at a Necron tomb world and unknowingly awoken her Necrons. That's a really good way of doing it, man. Good lad. Good lad. As the game progresses, my wife more and more turned into a raging Dave, and she is rolling so bad that no matter what I did, this game turned into an unwanted tabling of her Necrons. Oh no. Oh no. I hate it when the dice don't give you any other option. That's happened to me before. Like, yeah, when I've been doing intro games at Games Workshop, where a kid comes in and he really wants to have a good time, and I'm playing him in an introduction game, and he's rolling one after one after one after one after one, and it's not one of those games where you can reverse it and be like, oh, now ones mean good. You know, it's clearly not in the rules. So, like, and it's like, I'm really sorry, man. You know, this should be going better. I hate it when the game just like takes it out of your hands. It's almost like it's like, I don't want this person in the hobby. Get him out. By my turn 3, my wife is so pissed off that I'm fearing this is our first and last game. Oh my god. She is loudly complaining that her Necrons suck, that the game sucks. What a total disaster. Hoping for a miracle, I tell her to move her Necron HQ into position and fire his Void Staff at my Primaris captain. Then a miracle happened. Shooting a beam of energy, Necron Overlord hits my captain, who failed his invulnerable save and gets knocked out cold as my wife, with a big smile on her face, rolls 6 wounds. She is now happier than a duck with bread in her mouth, and proceeded to hunt my poor surviving assault intercessors down with her melee troops, and walks away with the victory, saying she would love to continue playing 40k. A few months later, I painted a 2,000 point army for her, and we've been playing every week. Even started a little 40k gaming club with a friend. Also, my Necrons suck have turned into quite the meme at home. Cheers, Necron. Cheers, Northern. Awesome, man. Make sure you have a word with your wife, and make sure that you tell her, like, you know, this is a dice game, and things will go poorly at one stage or another. You just have to accept it and just, like, get on with life, sort of a thing. But apart from that, I'm glad that the hobby came round and dug you out of a little hole there. Stefan says, hi, North. Just found your channel this week. Been binging it like all no one's business. Thank you. Got my own nightmare story for you if you're interested. Always. I've been in the painting and lore side of the hobby for a few years. Managed to build a respectable 4,000 point fully painted Black Legion army. Alright. I have had problems with being overly competitive as a kid, and I've actively sought to grow out of that and learn to play things for fun and be a gracious loser. In the last month, I decided to take the plunge and try and play a few games that weren't Beer Hammer at the Bad Moon Cafe, of which I have won precisely 0 games. Yeah, because you're pissed most of the time. I really don't know what I'm doing, so I joined the local gaming club and set about finding a game. I put up a post on the Facebook group asking for a game against either another beginner or someone prepared to teach me a bit. A nice fella replies, asking if I'm up for a game against his Imperial Knights. Oh no. No. Oh no. Like, Imperial Knights aren't that overpowered, but like, against somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, and confronting them with these massive mechs is not the best way to break them into the hobby. Sure, I say, I've never seen a knight up close before. Could be fun. I think I know where this is going. I live a short bus and train ride from the club. I turn up and we go through our lists. I should have been suspicious at the fact his was laminated. He just comes in with this laminated sheet of paper and says, "This is my X1D1909er list. Prepare to die," and just gives it to you. You know, it's just like, Jesus, man. We roll and deploy, and then he gets to go first. I've left Abaddon and 10 Terminators in reserve to deep strike. Okay. So he gets about everything else. In turn 1, he wipes out 3/4 of everything on the board. I have a very short turn 1, having not much left. He has his second turn and annihilated everything else on the table. I'm literally left with 2 Chaos Space Marines. He then mentions that this is a list he's used in a tournament the other week and is using again next month. Knowing the game is up and feeling really shitty, I attempted to concede, saying I've literally killed nothing and can't really give him a game. The guy objected and wanted to kill everything I had, while scoring massively on objectives. I stood my ground, shook his hand, said good game and left. I know I'm trying to be better at losing, but that one hurt. Yeah, no shit, man. No shit. What a douchebag. Like, don't do this. If you're in the hobby, right, we want to make sure that more people coming into the hobby. I fully understand that gatekeeping can sometimes be a good thing, but people like this make my teeth itch. Like, it's just, when you have somebody who literally says on your post, please, I'm a beginner, can I face another beginner or someone who's willing to teach me? And you come and you pull shit like that. People have done it to me before when I was first starting out in the hobby. It's not big, it's not clever. Like, you're not really adding to your win ratio. You're soulless. You're not getting anything out of the hobby. You're just annihilating it for somebody else. I hate it, man. I really do. There's no need for it. Have fun, or pick your opponent. And this is what people tend to not do, right? Like, can you tell me that this other guy who tabled him is having a good time? Because if he is, he's a sociopath, right? And that isn't a good thing, by the way. I'm sick of that being like, oh yeah, I'm such a sociopath. No, dude, it's a bad thing. Grow the fuck up, will you? Right? I just cannot stand behaviour like this. I really can't. Unless he's misread your initial post, there's no excuse here. There's no excuse for this. This is ridiculous. And what's even worse, it's not even cheating or anything like that. It's just terrible behaviour. It's just terrible behaviour. And then when the other guy wants to like quit and say, look, you know, you've killed everything. I can't do anything in this battle. Like, you know, GG, you know. And he says, no, I want to kill everything on the board. How fucking selfish are you? How much of a prick are you? What a tosser. What an absolute tosser. Get him in the sea. It just winds me up. Like, I've played people like this in the past where, like, they've literally annihilated me at the top of turn 3. And I've got 2 models left. And I've tried to quit, and that has happened to me before, where people have said, no, we haven't finished yet, because, no, you're having a good time, my friend, your opponent isn't anymore, right? I have 2 models left, I have 2 normal Space Marines left, you have half of your army left. There's no point in us carrying on, right? Yeah, I've got a friend called Matt who's really good for that, like, he knows, because he's so smart and so clever with the game, right? And he can tell several moves ahead who's going to win. Like, he just runs the numbers in his head. He works for CERN, go figure. Like, you know, he's a physicist. But, like, he's able to add things up in his head as he goes along. And he'll go, I think you're going to win. Sometimes it ruins the game because he tries to concede at, like, turn 2 because he knows the jigger's up. Even though it looks to me like we're 50-50 on the tabletop. But he's like, no, because you're going to take that, and then I'll take that, then I'll take that, then you'll take that, then you'll take that. And that's how it's going to go. And because he's playing 4D chess, basically. But 40k isn't 4D chess, and sometimes the luck goes against you. So when he's able to say, you know, tactically you've won, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You know, he's a really good player for that. Sometimes it bites him in the arse. He tries to concede too early. But yeah, certain people just know when the jig is up. And when you've got 2 models left, let them quit, dude. Let them walk away if they're not having a good time, for God's sake. And if they're being a sore loser, let them quit. Walk away. Go and get another game. But don't be this guy. This guy's a tosser. Honest to God. Right, waiting for something to happen, says. Hi, North. Here is the tale of the first D&D session I ever did. This session was such a clusterfuck and a success that a group of 4 became a group of 8 joining the sessions. As all good adventures go, all the players were in a tavern on the frontier of a nation. Our players are a 1 Dragonborn Paladin, 1 half rogue, and a drow druid. Okay. The Paladin and Rogue were brothers, and the Rogue being adopted into the noble family of the Paladin. Okay, right. The bros met in the tavern with the Druid a table behind them. The Rogue had been tracking down a gang of thieves for months to get his hands on a treasure map. He wanted his brother's help. The plan was for the Rogue to distract everybody with his show. He didn't have any points in performance, however. When he distracted them, the 8-foot-tall Dragonborn would sneak up behind the thieves and steal the map. Everyone was slowly reaching for their weapons, figuring out what their goal was, immediately. This was until the thieves realised that the map was gone, whilst the form of the Druid was running outside. Ah, so the third person in the party had gotten the map and run off, okay. The brothers and thieves started running towards him, forgetting each other. Once the Druid was cornered by both parties, they started fighting each other. Instantly, the Rogue goes down with 1 HP left, while the Dragonborn takes 2 bandits out. The Rogue crawls up to the Druid to take the map away from him. The Druid asks, Thunderwave? ? Thunderwave is a magic attack that hits everything around the caster up to a certain distance, and the minimum damage it can do is minus 1 HP. That would kill the Rogue. That's when the Rogue player said, remember, I drove you here in real life. The Druid decided not to cast it. I mean, my God, okay. The Druid decided not to cast it. The Dragonborn finishes off the rest, and all 3 teamed up. Later, the Rogue and the Druid became best friends and co-leaders of the group. During the short campaign, the party would cause an accidental genocide, accidentally find a Slaneshi-looking cult, wake an army of the undead, and have now been dragged into a crusade. We have to get better at writing. Cheers. Alright, P.S. I wasn't sure where to submit a question. I wanted your advice on teaching. Okay, cool. I think we're getting to the meat and potatoes of this post. I am aiming to be a history teacher in the future. I love the subject. I also love showing my friends new games and teaching them the rules and the universes of those games. I am planning a Death Corps of Krieg TTRPG campaign to introduce them to the world. Each player will have a sheet with numbers, and every time their character dies, they will cross it as a Death Corps quartermaster would off the checklist. Back to the point. What advice would you give anyone wanting to get into teaching? I don't know where did that Death Corps of Krieg thing come from? Alright, so, to get into teaching, I would say most schools want you to have a master's degree these days to go and actually get your qualification. If you're in the UK, it's called a PGCE. I didn't get that. I got the Illinois State Diploma for teaching, which is essentially the same thing. So yeah, master's first, man. I think the English government actually give you money. They give you like 10 grand just for doing your master's in teaching, which is quite nice, like a grant that they give to you to get you through it. They at least did when I applied for it. I didn't do it. I went to America in the end. But yeah, master's first. And if you've already got a master's in your subject, then PGCE first. And your PGCE will also get that grant as well. So, you do get a little bit of a bunch of money for doing it. And once you've got your PGCE, you've already been training in schools. Hopefully you've got some... that's when you get your networking out there when you've been training in schools. You know, generally that's how you go about it. So, good luck. And if you need any more help, just give me a little message. Valdor says, Hi, my name is Constantine. Okay, I hope this isn't written from the point of view of the character, or I'm going to stop reading. And I found out about the channel not so long ago, but damn, those stories do hit close to home sometimes. Yeah, man. Back when I was just a kid, about 10 or 11, so about 16 years ago, I had a friend who told me about Warhammer and the hobby, And I went a couple of times with him to our local Games Workshop store. A week or two later, I was at my local Games Workshop, and I had taken an appointment to try and paint my first model with them. Okay, cool. Awesome. So I come in, and the red shirt, for those of you who don't know, is a staff member at Games Workshop, but not the manager, asks me if I wanted to paint the Gandalf in pink. Okay. He pointed at a pretty well-painted pink Gandalf close by the painting table. Not exactly sure how sarcastic he was. I'm not really keen on painting Lord of the Rings miniatures, and decided to buy something that would better fit in the army I wanted to roll with instead. I bought a Tomb King with a heavy weapon. Gorgeous miniature, but perhaps not the best for a beginner. Yeah. And one of the most complicated miniatures. I want to paint this as my first miniature. Okay. I went home with that mini and started up with 3 paint pots. Hawk Turquoise, Shining Gold, and Screaming Skull. Oh my god. When I got home, I went at the skeleton dude like a madman. I had some shit tier acrylics at home and barely thinned my paint. Oh my god. This went on all night and was probably my first sleepless night ever. I tried to best paint an Ankh, an Egyptian cross, on the cape. The very next day, I rushed to the Games Workshop store to show my masterpiece, quote unquote. Red shirt wasn't there. In his stead, there stood the black shirt, the manager, basically. I show him triumphantly my magnum opus. He looks at it and says, "Not great, especially that thing on the back." He grabbed a mini from the guy that was sitting off at the painting table with him and went, "I don't really know how to do that kind of stuff." And so I... What? Okay, sorry, I misread that. Right, so see, he grabs something from the painting table next to him without asking, and says, this is the manager, "I don't really know how to do that kind of stuff, so I don't do it, and neither should you. Maybe one day, look at this mini. Now we are talking." It was a crisp blood axe boy, with a couple of freehands on it. I went on learning, a couple of years later, that the random dude sitting at the table was a Golden Demon winner. For God's sake. Pretty harsh to compare that to somebody's first miniature. I went back home that day both disappointed and furious. I didn't set foot in the store for a couple of months. Yeah, this is why, as a Games Workshop manager, you really do need to be, how do I put it, cogent of what's going on around you and who you're speaking to. I think I've told this story before, but I once fielded a very, very angry dad who frog marched into the store when my manager wasn't there, furious and asking to speak to the manager. He mentioned him by name. And I said, well, he isn't here today, but can I help you instead? And he said, "Not really, because you weren't the one who told my daughter that her models were bad." And I said, "Oh, that's awful. Can you explain to me what happened?" Essentially, this girl had come in, you know, and had tried to do her first model straight from school. I think it was an orc or something. And she had painted it not that well, you know, because she's a kid, go figure. And I'm thinking, this kid's like, you know, 14, 15, whatever, just getting started. Just like me, you know, wasn't very good when I first started. And the manager has reamed her out with some bad models. He was like that. He would literally just tell you, he would say it's being straight, but I love the fact that people with no tact and who are genuinely pretty nasty, they tend to say like, "Oh, I just speak the truth and you can't handle it." No, dude, you're a cunt. Like, that's literally what you are. Like, there's a difference between being able to say what's on your mind and being a tactless twat. And that's exactly what you're being. That's exactly what he was. He was just tactless, and he would go after people for literally no reason. It would literally be, you know... Anyway, I'm thinking, okay, this girl's 14, whatever. I'm thinking, this is ridiculous, this is terrible. And he's literally told her, yeah, this model sucks, here's what's wrong with it. You know, go out and figure out what to do. Dry brush this, highlight that, do this, do that, do that, do that. And if you don't, they're not tabletop standard. At all, right? She left not long after that and went back to her dad and said she didn't want to do the hobby anymore. Now, this is around her birthday, by the way, and her dad has bought around £400 worth of models that he then tries to return. And if any of you know what happens to models when you return them at Games Workshop, they come off your weekly sales, which wouldn't be very good. So I had to talk this guy down and basically tell him to bring his daughter in because she was outside and, like, you know, come in and do some more painting with us instead of him, instead of the manager. Only to find out that his daughter was an actual child. This is a child we are talking about. This is somebody who is, you know, under 10 years old, who has been told that her models suck. Yeah, those people are in the hobby. People who say shit like this, they are real, they are in the hobby, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. They should either learn better behaviour, or they should fuck off somewhere else. Mainly into the sea, where they can stay until they stop swimming, essentially. Now, I can say with certitude, says our friend here, that my painting skills are much better than his, and freehands are my strong suit now. I'll see if I can send some of them. Feel free to put them in the video if you want to, or not, you do you. Yeah, they are really nice models from what I've seen of them. It's clearly not Slayer Sword tier, but I am proud to field my miniatures as they are, even the older ones despite their flaws. I am pretty sure that comment mattered, and played an important role in my now painting skills and how they evolved. Okay, that's cool. So we're now seeing the other side of gatekeeping, right? This is a defence that a lot of gatekeepers like to put forward and say, look, we need to hold people to a certain standard in the hobby, because if we don't, they're never going to get better, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. I would say there's a time and a place, right? I would say that manager could have given you that advice without kicking you in the balls as well, you know? I think there is room in this world for truth that isn't layered under layer and layer of shit in front of it, right? Let's be honest. There's no need to be rude. And that's what I mean. When people say, I'm just being truthful, there's no need to be rude. Even if you're giving the truth, even if you're saying a harsh truth, there is no need to be rude with it at all. Right? Figure your delivery, dude. Do it better than that. I think we should not be afraid to point out some things that could be improved in someone else's hobby. That's true. I'm not saying to go to every single miniature and list all the things that are wrong, obviously, but critique is necessary for improvement. There are nice ways to present things and, I couldn't stress how important this is, do it only when it's relevant, indeed. If you see someone struggling with something hobby related, don't shame them. Offer to help them. Point them to a tutorial or to a relevant book. Our hobby is an awesome place. Let's learn to grow with it at our own pace. So, yeah man, but what I'm saying here is, the manager didn't do your advice. Right? You are very mature in the way that you took his advice, but 99% of people, I think, would have told him to fuck off, essentially, the way that he went with you. That's what I mean. You are completely correct. Offer to help them, point them to a tutorial or a relevant book if they seem to be struggling with something hobby-related and they need help, right? No problem whatsoever. That's brilliant. But just saying, yours are bad, don't attempt something that you're not very good at. Look at this model, this Golden Demon Winner model. That's a good model, yours isn't. That isn't good advice. That's being a cunt. Right? So, there you go. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy, please. If you're going to give advice, give it properly. Because, honest to God, that is the worst part of gatekeeping. Like, I like gatekeeping and keeping a hobby honest and keeping the standards high, but you need to temper it. The problem with gatekeeping is we keep giving it to these smooth brains who think that the hobby is theirs to do with as they please. It's not, right? It needs to be... Gatekeeping should be in the hands of the chads, of the guys who are secure enough in their own self-worth to give you advice from a really good place that makes you want to get better. That's called being a teacher. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, guys. I'll be back on tomorrow, it looks like, with a video on the Emperor of Mankind in a lore sense. That's going to be very, very large and interesting. Love you a long time. See you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye.